super, super in-depth knowledgeable about this fight. What I really just want to cover by going over Dementius is just, hey, these are the things that I really want you guys to focus on when it comes to watching Liquid Echo Method, whoever doing this fight on Heroic. I don't know what the Heroic versus normal differences are. Um, that's not super important to me personally, because who cares? So, anyways, phase one. The biggest thing you guys need to know is that there's 5 different mechanics. There's a smash that goes on tanks that's going to spawn ads. I do not know how many ads. I'm assuming it's going to be 2 or 4, but I don't know. There's a reverse gravity dot. We'll go over that. A shattered space. That's a soak. A dark matter, which is just spread circles and constant AoE damage that will come out. What you absolutely can't do is be within 15 yards of the tank that is tanking the boss actively. It's an AoE 15-yard damage hit that will almost certainly kill you. So the active tank, and we'll go over positioning stuff in a little bit. You actively cannot be by that tank, and that's probably going to force Nova and I to be very vocal about, hey, I have boss. If you guys don't have frames that tell you which is the active tank. So one of the recommendations I would make for this tier is if you can get something that will easily tell you which tank is the active tank, uh, that would probably be a very good thing to add to your target frame or your UI in some capacity. These are the things you need to understand for phase one: how the gravity mechanic works, where the ads are going to spawn, when we spread, who picks up the orbs, and how and what to soak. So I don't know what positioning is going to look like when we get here. I can see one of two things: a split of a group 1 versus group 2 on 2 opposite sides of the boss, a everyone is on the left, everyone is all the right, or everyone's in the center. I honestly couldn't tell you. It's one of the things that we're going to have to figure out. So ads and spread circles. So this is the active tank. He gets hit by the tank mechanic. Ads will spawn around the tank, I hope close, uh, after this tank hit goes off. These are priority, have to die kind of ads. They each will do a 1.8 million tick to random players until they die. So I think it's every 2 seconds they do this tick as well. So every 2 seconds, it's 7.2 million damage going out across the entire raid. Uh, there's also this spread mechanic with these circles. If you are inside someone else's circle when these blow up, you will take 100% extra damage from all sources. So you absolutely cannot be inside someone else's circle, because if this ad goes out with this combination and you're inside someone's circle, you're taking 3.6. And if 2 of these ads target you, like 75% of your health pool is going to go bye bye in one tick. And that 1.8 million number is just what the Dungeon Journal says. With our raid size, I would assume that number is going to be higher than 1.8 million. So you absolutely cannot be within someone else's circle. It's also going to slow you by 50%. So when these ads die, imagine this right here is this side of the room. When these ads die, they're each going to drop an orb. What happens is this is going to be a Crimmy and Mind job for sure. Depending on how many ads there's going to be, we're going to have to figure out who else is going to have to help with this. This might be the reason why in M0s this last week, Liquid was really heavily trying to gear Hunters, because BM loses no damage doing this mechanic. What's going to happen is, assume this is Crimmy or Mind, they're going to pick up one of these orbs. And we'll go over what's going to happen next with that. The biggest thing for melee, you cannot accidentally pick these up, just like OAB, okay? There may be a situation in which melee are going to carry these orbs, but you absolutely cannot be on top of these ads when they die. So one of the things that I would like all the melee to do in Liquid Reminders before we get to this boss is put a reminder whenever these ads spawn to remind yourself with some sort of voice tone to not be on these ads when they die. Okay? It is imperative that you do not fuck that up. So, the orbs and the Devourer. So, Crimmy and Mine both have an orb. They actually, this is a joke, kiss, but seriously, they want to touch each other. When they touch each other, they're going to create a zone. This is a slow zone that gives everyone one stack of every orb player in this zone. So if Crimmy and Mind are both in this, and let's say, uh, I don't know, who wants to be Zess as an example. If Zess is inside this zone, he's going to get two stacks of a debuff or a buff. I'm not sure which is important because if you don't have uh, as many or more stacks of this buff than the boss, he will pull you into him, and if you touch the boss, you are dead. Okay? So it's basically if you don't do this correctly, you're going to get yanked into this guy and die. If you're not in this zone and you're out here, you're obviously not getting any stacks. You're going to get yanked in, you're going to die. So it's going to be the entire raid stacks in this zone. I don't know if it's going to be two separate zones depending on how many ads there are. That's why I could see like 2 ads or 4 ads spawning per set. The long story short, the orb people need to touch, create a zone. There'll be a raid plan before we get here to tell you guys where you're going to do that at. And everyone else in the raid is getting in these zones to get these stacks so that they don't get sucked into the boss. Any questions so far? Oh, and essentially what happens is there's this Devour cast. You have to be in this zone when this Devour cast ends. Or when it ends, that's when you get sucked in. Any questions so far? One of the things,
so
go ahead.
Sorry. So it's going to basically be like Crimmy and I touch. We create a little portal or a little slop on the ground. Somebody runs in and just gets some stacks. Is it like
The
one
entire
person
raid
at a
does.
time, 3 people at a time? Okay.
There's
And then are we standing in the puddle?
you and Crimmy, I believe, have to stay in there because the way it reads is everyone gets one stack of whatever this debuff or buff is to players in the zone, equal to the amount of orb players in this zone. So if you and Crimmy
we'll be going
kiss,
2, 4, 6.
yes. So if you and Crimmy kiss and then you guys run away, and then Zess runs in here, well, you guys aren't in here anymore. So he's in the slow zone, but there's no one to give him stacks of this because you two need to stay in here to give the raid stacks. So when you and Crimmy make this zone, you aren't running away. You guys are sticking in there.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. This is still phase 1. The boss is going to slam down either one hand or both of his hands. I assume it's going to happen like on opposite sides of the platform. When he slams his hands down, there's going to be like a little crystal orb thing left behind called antimatter. We have to soak this. In 10 seconds after it spawns, it's going to explode, and they both do raid-wide damage. The more we soak it, the less damage the raid will take. So what that's going to look like is group 1 will be on, let's say, this left side. Group 2 will be on this right side. The slam goes down. You can't be in this circle or you'll get one shot. As soon as the antimatter spawns, group 1 will all go soak this. Group 2 will go soak this side. They'll blow up in 10 seconds, and there will be close to 0 raid damage out. This is an everybody mechanic except for the active tank. Because obviously you can't be too close to the active tank. The only question I have is, according to the Dungeon Journal, does 4.5 million damage when these hands hit. I'm not sure if that is per hand, so a total of 9 million damage, or just one instance that's 4.5 million from both hands hitting at the same time. So we'll have to watch out for that. If it's a double hit from one of each hand, that's 9 million damage to each one of us. That's 100% a personal, and it's a really good personal to use because you're going to go soak this anyways, and it's going to do damage to you while you soak it. So you're basically using a wall to stop a big hit on you, and then a dot that's going to go on you afterwards. Okay, the gravity mechanic. This is by far the most confusing thing of Phase 1. You all need to know how to do this because you will die if you do not understand this. So you guys, if you have questions when I'm done talking, you need to ask them. Reverse gravity, which is a debuff, is going to go on random players. Doesn't say how many, so we're just going to say this is Xantia. If you are within 6 yards of Xantia, you are going to go airborne. So these people, this paladin and this hunter, are now in the air. They are levitating in the air. The only way that they can get brought back to the ground is Crimmy or Mind or whoever picked up those orbs that made this zone when we killed these ads has to go underneath these people and he will pull them back to the ground. I don't know if it's instant. I don't know if it's slowly bringing them back down. I would hope it's going to be pretty quick. But it's going to be these orb people's job. It's called excess mass to pull anyone that gets airborne back down to the ground. Any questions before I continue? This is, again, most confusing part of phase 1. Okay.
Are they only going to be able to pull down one person each, or does excess mass persist after they pull someone down?
I assume it persists for the rest of the fight. Like, as soon as they pick it up from the ad, they have it until phase 1 ends. Okay. As far as multiple people, so like if this paladin and hunter were stacked and he went underneath both, I would hope it's going to bring both down at the same time, but I do not know. If it can, then what the play is going to be is like, hey, there's 2 markers, go to one of those 2 markers if you get sent airborne. And Crimmy would be assigned like yellow, mine would be assigned like green, and they would pull people back down. The only thing
you still you still have control while you're airborne, though?
That's what I was about to say. I don't know.
Okay.
The other thing about this is, let's say like the raid is appropriately spread and, you know, there's multiple copies of Xancha around the room. If there's no one within these 5 people when excess mass goes out, I believe no one goes airborne. So I'm pretty sure you can completely negate this mechanic from happening at all, like the airborne specific mechanic from happening at all, if you pre-spread for this mechanic. I'm not 100% sure.
You said when excess mass goes up, but you meant reverse gravity, right?
Oh, yes. When reverse gravity goes out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like, it's only 6 yards, so it's going to look something like this. As long as no one is within these circles of these 5 players, I'm pretty sure no one will get sent airborne. So again, if we can pre-spread before this comes out, I don't think it becomes a mechanic.
I mean, if that's true for normal and heroic, it's probably a one-shot on mythic then.
Yeah, potentially. So the reason... Go ahead, Tree.
I was going to say, I just want to point out that you made the Blizzard choice and put purple on the purple floor with the purple boss. So good for you.
I know that's what they're going to do. 100%.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%.
If not, it's going to be like dark navy blue. So, the important reason of why you have to get pulled back down to the ground. If you are still airborne when the boss does his next cast, you get yanked into the boss, and again, you touch him, and you're instantly dead. Because there's no way when the next Devour comes out that you can get into this zone. So you can't get the buff. So now you're dead. The biggest thing that any excess mass person absolutely cannot have happen to them. So this will probably be a Crimmy and Mind will have designated spots, or anyone else that has excess mass will have designated spots, so that this absolutely cannot happen, especially week 1. Is you guys absolutely cannot be within 6 yards of another person when this reverse gravity cast comes out. Because if, let's say there's only 2 excess masses people, if both of you guys get sent airborne, we have no one to pull people back down to the ground now. So both whoever picks up these orbs, I would say the safest thing to do is there will be designated spots that are for only those people and no one else can go there. Excuse me. So that we don't have to do that. Losing my voice already. All right, that's the gravity mechanic. Any questions?
Is there more to the phase 1, or is this the end of phase 1?
This is the end of phase 1.
Yeah, so there's also the potential. Do we know that this transitions based off of percentage health or off of timer?
We have to get the boss to 0%.
Okay, so there's absolutely a chance too we just end up skipping this depending on what we're doing damage wise. Obviously, mythic would be different, but heroic, there's a chance.
Normal, there's a chance maybe, but heroic, I
No.
would doubt week 1. Okay.
All right.
Anyone else?
It is the potentially skippable mechanic. Yes.
Anyone else? Okay. So intermission. If you did Firac, we're doing Firac all over again, but it's Firac on crack. We're going to split into 2 groups. Very, very strong chance for splitting into 2 groups. There are 2 things that are good. A gate that will give you vigor and speed, and there's an orb that we can pick up, so when we land at the intermission zones, they will automatically do 5% of the Void Lord, which we'll cover that in a second, their HP for every orb that we are able to pick up. Outside of that, everything else will kill you. There are 3 other things that will kill you. If you run into Dementius, he will kill you. There's a jet stream looking thing that if you go through it, will dismount you and kill you. The only things you care about, go through the gates, pick up orbs, touch nothing else. Just keep it super simple. So when we go to intermission, there's going to be a platform called Entropy, a platform called Conquest, who gives a shit. And there's going to be 2 separate bosses. These are the Void Lords, Artosian and Pargoth. Artosian, he does a frontal ejection. I assume it's going to be pointed at players, not the active tank. And obviously 1 tank per platform. Wherever this line goes, will leave behind shit that does a 50% slow and a lot of damage. So what that means is like the entire group wants to be stacked. Oops. And bait this beam around this guy. And just keep baiting. And obviously the guy can move as well. And that's really all he does. Pargoth, he does almost the same thing, except he does a circle. And once the circle goes off, it's the exact same thing as this line. The area of the circle now has that same shit that does damage and a slow.
Couldn't we on the first guy just bait the line every time on the outside and just move him and like keep the middle of the platform like really clear? Like, does
Yes.
that matter?
Yes, and that's almost certainly what you're going to do because of the next thing.
Okay.
So, there are going to be ads along with the Void Lords. These Void Wardens, there will be multiple of these. Okay? He has an area. This is that black cloud. That's his area. You cannot go inside of it. If you try to go inside of it, it will knock you back, potentially off the platform. And the Dungeon Journal says it will do 10 million damage. So don't go in his area or whatever. There's going to be multiple of these. I assume they are grippable. But if there are 2 Void Wardens and they die within 8 yards of each other, the one that survives gets full healed and has a 99% damage reduction. However, there's nothing in the Dungeon Journal that says that these things actually have to die. So they kind of come off as like, not billiards, but what's the other billiards-like game where they have like the little, like
Snooker.
What's it?
Snooker.
With like the little barriers that you bounce the balls against on the table.
Yeah, I think that's called snooker. Yeah.
No, it's not snooker.
No, snooker's a different game. I don't know what he's talking about.
But if you guys know what I'm talking about, like whatever that game's called, it kind of feels like that, where like you can get ping-ponged from one ad to the next, and you just get yourself killed that way. But there's nothing in the Dungeon Journal that actually says that these things have to die. So maybe it's just completely avoid them. We'll find out. There's a second ad, and it sounds like there's only one, called a Null Binder. The tank has to tank them. If it melees Nova or I 15 times, it will kill us instantly. So this is the priority ad that has to die. The other thing it does is it like binds all players to himself and does damage in a slow, and it stacks. So it's going to kill the tank, and it's going to slow everyone else, So it is the hard priority ad for everybody to kill on both sides. These ads, again, exist on both sides. The other things, there's a circle that will randomly appear on the platforms. That's a one-shot. Just dodge it. There's going to be a wind pushback that also does AoE raid damage. Obviously, the scary thing is getting pushed off the platform, and obviously no idea how strong the winds are going to be. But I assume it's going to be like Ansrek, where it was like the like the web tethers happen on like one side during phase 2, and then it swapped to the other side. So while one side is getting the wind, the other side is not getting the wind, is how I assume it's going to work. And this is the phase 2. Any questions? Okay. So we'll assign what side everyone's going to. You need to make sure you know what your boss does depending on the side. You need to make sure you're aware of your positioning and which ad to kill. What we need to answer is, I don't know if Pargoth and Artosian share health. I doubt they do. So what that means is I don't know if they have to die at the same time. So just something to keep an eye out for. Phase 3. Phase 3, if you did Razageth phase 3, he's slowly going to close out the outside of the room the longer we stay in this phase. Other things he does. It sounds like these rings might do a knockback if you run into them, but it's not 100% clear in the dungeon journal. So the boss is now super small. I assume he's coming back at 100% health, so we have to get him to a 0 again. For Nova and myself, it's the same tank hit from phase 1. The only difference is every time we take that tank hit, Nova, it increases the next tank hit, the cosmic damage of it, by 150%. So essentially what's going to happen to Nova and I is it's a race against time for the DPS to kill this boss before we die, because we just can't survive the tank hits anymore because the amplification is just way too high now. The
And I
other
would
thing,
guess it persists through death and probably immunities.
I assume so. Yeah. I mean, I assume you can bubble it and take 0 damage, but you probably still take the stack, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is no one can be within 12 yards of the tank. So what that looks like is the tank is probably over here, and then everyone else is like on the opposite side, just like Razageth. Phase 3 mechanics. 10 stars fall around. I have no idea what that means. I assume they're just going to be little circles I have to dodge. Once 10 spawn, it's going to create a gravity well. The next slide will go over that. It's just an area of denial circle. But we're going to use it because when he casts Devour, he can't eat us as long as we're inside that circle. So it's essentially this circle from phase 1 all over again, just in the last phase of the fight. There's also an ability called Shadowquake. Actually, I can just stay on this one. Just a giant circle that we can't be inside of. The other thing is there's going to be a star that he's going to explode. It is fall-off damage. We'll see what that looks like. And then it will create a black hole that will start orbiting the boss. If this touches you, you instantly die. So very punishing. And yeah, that's kind of it. The biggest things for phase 3 you need to know is what's the circle that helps you stay alive, and what are the circles that will kill you if you touch them. That's kind of it. Any questions about phase 3 or anything else? Cool.